All right, one and all, welcome back to the competitive AoE4 action. We are here for the group stage of Energy Slapfest #1, a $1,250 tournament taking place over 3 days. And we are going to be opening up with 3D Clan's very own Anotand facing off against Benny Boy himself, Team Liquid's Demu, in a best of 3. They have opened up with Byzantines versus Dehli, respectively, between the two. And this is a curious matchup, actually, because I think before the patch dropped, most people would just thumbs up the Dehli. I think a lot of people still would, regardless of that. But I gotta say, the buffs to the Byzantines in the early game slapped a lot harder than I think most people expected. Right? I'm sure I'm not alone. I feel we've got a few pros in the chats, and I'm sure they'd love to give their opinions on this. But I feel like the changes they made to the early game might be enough to thread the needle. I'm still a little bit dubious about the mercenary timings, because I think it's too expensive at olive oil. But outside that, it's really good. We are going to open up on 2x speed, just because I'm aware that we are against the clock here to make sure we're condensed in time for the other game starting today. And because typically in this matchup, there's no funky plays in the opening, it's going to be a Grand Winder to begin the game from Anotand here. Makes a lot of sense. I don't think you want to be playing Hippodrome into Ghazi Raiders. Theoretically, you can beat Ghazi Raiders, but the thing you have to keep in mind is if you don't kill them, the Dehli player can run them back home and heal them up, similar to what you're doing with Triumph. On the other side, TOV coming out. Demu should be going for a pretty standardized build here, right? Ghazi into Archers. The question mark, I think, in most people's minds right now is what wins out? Archer Ghazi or Limitane Archers from the Byzantines? Well, you've got enough olive oil to actually get a decent number of Lombos with this first berry patch due to the Grand Winery. On top of that, scaling into food and wood units is the thing that you can definitely do as a defender on this map, due to the fact that you get a fat defensive wood line behind you. Well, let's see how quickly he wants to go fat with the system. Now that's that tech up complete, it should be his level 2 system coming in. Does need to connect it, so we'll need to build another building straight away into the racks, plus the house. This will be enough stone to connect these two. That, remember, is going to put him from a 10% gathering rate up to a 14%. It's crazy, actually. This system buff essentially puts you one level ahead of where you were on the previous patch. Other side of this, nothing really changed the Dehli, outside of the exploit that people could make happen with the docks and the garrisoning. Everything else is pretty much the same as it was before the patch dropped. But Dehli is still very dominant, right? I think especially on a map like Gorge, when you've got 3 sacred sites located so close together, this Civ can thrive. So I think the onus is going to be on Anotand to get out fast. Love the opening of an outpost just to allow him to focus on the food for now. Limited Limitane coming through, say that 10 times. And it's going to be perfectly timed because the Ghazi are on the way on the other side. The awkward part, though, by going Limitane and opening here, usually you have to stay at home and guard your base. You can't contest the sacred sites, right? Which will be coming in a minute and a half. The difference here with this outpost actually is it gives a little bit more agency to Anotand to go out of his base. He doesn't just have to sit and watch necessarily. That being said, he will have to finish that outpost first. So upgrade complete there. Gonna have to be a blacksmith quite quickly here. I think one big concern is if you don't go for the blacksmiths, you tend to get kind of bamboozled by this. The fortunate end of the stick for Anotand here is that Demu hasn't even started to upgrade yet. Finally queues it up. It's going to be Steeled Arrow first. So in 3 minutes, he's going to have it. Typically, Anotand wants to be looking for the blacksmith drop by about, I'd say, 8.5 minutes here to prep for the defenses. And wow, he's going to be going for the jabs. That's an interesting choice. I thought we'd be looking at Lombos here, but I quite like this. You just need something that can trade out efficiently without being threatened. And I think the difference between Lombos and jabs here is the Lombos are less mobile. And that's a problem because of what we highlighted, right? In this matchup, you're going to have to come out of your base quickly. You can't just camp at home. So if you went for Lombos, anytime you miss position outside your base, Ghazi punish. Javelins are able to mobilize and get behind the Limitane much quicker. So pretty cool read there by Anachad. Demu, however, in the meantime, has already locked in one sacred site. We'll be moving for the second. Scout is going to try to contest that for a little bit. Love that little detail. And we are already seeing pocket ecos coming out from Demu. The problem here is Anotand is running a comp that can't actually raid that at all. If he takes a big win in the center, jabs are sufficient raiders to find these pocket ecos. But we are far from that right now. And this start is terrible, Anotand! Oh my god, he instantly loses 2 for 1 Ghazi. Terrible, terrible beginning here. This is problematic because Anotand, he's running out of berries here, right? He hasn't got enough olive oil to straight away pump more than 2 javelin loads here. So he's going to have to transition into olive groves. And reaching other berry patches is quite difficult with how wide you play here. So although it seems like a nitpicky detail that you lost 2 jabs, it matters a lot considering that's your only answer right now to what is quickly becoming a scary number of archers. 3 sacred sites now locked in. Going to hit the fast forward. I wonder if people actually like it when there's nothing going on, if there's a little bit of fast forwarding going on instead. I know some people find it disorienting, or at least it said so in the past, but I think that was 4 times speed. 2 times is kind of a sanity check for most. And plus, it guarantees we're ready to stockpile more games in the future. But Ghazi, massing now. This number is getting high. Limitane are here to defend in mass from Anatan. The problem is the archer count is just so high. The shield wall is going to help, the undermesh as well. Plus, there is the +1 coming out from the dehli, so it kind of offsets that a little bit. But, you know, although 40% from 50% doesn't sound like a big nerf, I think it does help a little bit, especially with the dehli here, considering that this is a better performing archer civ anyway, due to the attack speed. That being said, that was not a better performing strike there. The jabs completely had a free day there. Limitane was sacrificed a little bit. Right now, Demu's goal isn't to necessarily like get the GG win in a big fight. His goal is to just essentially keep Anatan locked in his base. So far, that's working. And where's the breakout point for this comp as well? So my feeling is if you just keep spamming into Limitane versus Ghazi, it ends badly, which is why I prefer what's coming out from Anachad. It's a ride up towards Castle Age. Contest continues on from Demu, though, whittling away at those Limitane numbers. There's just still too many here, right? Like, the Ghazi would not fare well here at all. Outpost is also doing a lot of work for Anatan. He still doesn't know, does he, right? Yeah, no, he has to go deeper for this. The Golden Horn Tower, he sees it, but he just simply cannot reach it. Pushes in, jabs get forced back, and raids deep. Beautifully done by Demu. Goes straight past it. Akratoy activation is a beauty there from Anatan, though, so that's going to push back against this. Dude, the double Akratoy pump, beautiful. I love that. Remember, they get the +2 armor, so these Ghazi are essentially reduced to regular horsemen in that stage. Outpost doing a lot of work, and Demu gets pushed back. Oh, man. Dude, what a sick hold there. That looked a little bit wonky at first, right? When the breakthrough came in from the Ghazi, I thought that was just going to be it. That was going to be Anatan idled up for 30 seconds, 40 seconds. But Anachad, he's been playing a lot of Byzantines, and he's wise to this. Akratoy is no joke. You can tell how powerful it is by the fact it has to go on cooldown for 2 minutes after being used. The biggest detail isn't just the extra damage, really, which is +2 at this stage. It's the armor. It makes it very difficult for even Ghazi with the higher base stats compared to Horsemen to find kills. It's a great read there. Keeps him alive. Dive still coming in from Demu, though. Idle time's going to be achieved. That's going to slow down the unlocks via the gold into this Castle Age, but it shouldn't last long enough. I think the issue for Demu, although he's prioritizing siege engineering now, it's very late, right? So instead, Demu, I feel like the goal should be to kind of just get yourself to Castle Age quickly here. Because even when Anatan starts coming out, he still first has to address the Sacred Site win condition. In fact, what would be super sick here actually from Demu is if he just sets up a wall along the center. Because right now, Anatan is playing infantry, right? And if there's a wall down the center, he doesn't have a quick reaction to anywhere. In which Anatan now moving out to the flanks. Relics haven't been grabbed yet, by the way. Anatan hasn't even tried to go for them. Raid's still coming in from Demu. Let's go find some villages. Yeah, Siege Shelter is quite the pain in the arse sometimes, we just saw there. Outpost is going to go down. Not many farms here for Anatan, right? So he has to take a risk soon. If he can't get the troops together to defend a pocket resource, he has to just go for it anyway. This is like a very delicate point in the game for Anatan. It's why Demu hasn't just gone fully back and gone Castle Age. He's prepping for it, though, folks. He's adding in additional scholars because he has so much gold. The benefit of doing this right now, Anatan is still contained in his base. If Demu's able to rush the tech timing, he can immediately look to hoover 5 relics off this map. Rams coming in. Gotta be careful against that, though. I don't know why, how Mangonel Outpost didn't get nerfed. Remember, they rejigged Siege, so that a lot of Siege, like Rams, for example, have less health now. So funnily enough, with that change, they made Mangonel Towers a more effective answer to Rams than they were before. Oh, wow. Demu's doing the House of Learning build. Okay, this is sick. I actually really like this. I saw Demu do this once or twice on the ladder recently. I actually think he's onto something. The power of this with the mobility, I mean, it's kind of comparative to what you get out of Varangian Guard, right? In the Imperial Age with that rush. The whole idea is you get into Home Blades, you get into Men-at-Arms, and then you also have the Forced March to allow you to go up to the speed of a horseman, basically, right? It's maximum speed. It's 2 tiles a second. And that allows you to gap close on anything. If your opponent goes Siege, done. If your opponent's going heavily into range, done. Right now, Anatan does have a decent line to hold against it. He's massing Varangian. But But as this game goes on, and maybe he looks to switch over to crossbows, funnily enough, dehli spam men-at-arms can actually do pretty well against that. So, tech up complete. Opening is going to be straight into the crossbows, understandably here, right? Right now, Demu doesn't have that type of food source. He also doesn't have home blades yet. Instead, he just wants to get the crossbows and contest this massive Varangian before it gets out of control. 5 minutes left on the Sacred Site win condition. That's going to be shut down now, though. Anotand, this army is big enough. I think Demu knows he shouldn't be trying to contest this at all. Just backing up, buying himself time until he gets the first crossbows out. In the meantime, 3 relics already on the way home for Demu. Anotand, he's only now building the first monk, so this is looking like we're probably going to get into a 4-relic game for the dehli, if not more. Crossbows now arriving. That should reset Anotand. That's very responsible of him, actually. Usually in this position, someone would try to rush him with the Varangian. You just need to get the Spearman up here. Spearman and the Javs. Otherwise, this fight doesn't work. Spearman with Javs. Now we just start targeting down those crossbows. Flash comes in. Not many Varangians here for Anotand, though, so probably a fight that he's not going to be able to hold on to for long. Even the Ghazi, remember, they get bonus damage up against this. And a lot of the Varangians got baited north side. Well played by Demu. Literally drags them away from the main engagement and gets access to the Javelin line. Great fight out of Benny Boy. All Javs are going to go down. Archers and crossbows are still going to be alive. Not many crossbows, mind you. But the Varangian line isn't looking healthy, folks. And remember, these crossbows, just a few of them, they do attack much quicker than your standard units at this stage. So great cleanup. Anotand is going to be pushed back towards his base. And unfortunately, because Demu already took most of the relics, Anotand doesn't have some sort of value play he can make while this fight's going on. Oh, we're on shaky ground now. I don't like this matchup for Byzantines when you reach Castle Age in comparative form like this. Anotand realistically needs either like a TC or he needs extra relics to kind of propel him forward. If this matchup's able to reach Imperial, it's kind of a no-brainer because, let's be real, dehli don't like Imperial at all. But the problem is this feels like the type of game where Castle Age should be lasting a long time. I would be surprised if Demu doesn't go back to what he was doing in Feudal, right? Full pressure, non-stop. Because now, he's got plenty more gold. He's got the Sacred Sites still locked 1 or 2 at a time. He's got 3 relics, could easily still turn into 4. And on the other side of this, Anotand, sure he's getting some olive oil, but the count isn't impressive. He's got 12 of these groves. He's exhausting the berries right now, but after that, your ability to pump more mercs becomes heavily limited for about 5 minutes as you scale the farms. Ghazi. I'm going to ride through. No Mangonel in placement. Oh, no. Well, there's no Akratoy either, so that's kind of unfortunate. He does have textiles, so Anotand shouldn't be losing villagers, but it's still idle time, right? And look at Anotand's food. He cannot afford that right now, especially now that Demu is prepping the men-at-arms. Oh, boy. This is what I was worried about. I mean, Anotand does have some crossbows, sure, but the home blades, the power of this coming into 40 seconds is just going to destroy these fights. Camel Riders are a blessing here against the Lancers. Sometimes Golden Horn Tower does prove useful. Jazz will keep poking as they retreat away. Demu should be looking to lock in the Sacred Sites again behind this, but so far, just kind of sitting at home. It might be that he's worried about the straggler units that Anotand has out in the field, especially the camels. Doesn't want to give over any sort of scholar kills. Raiding by the Ghazi. Limitane were there this time, though, so not much damage done. Demu still building a bit of a lead, though. Now up 6 villages. Another thing to keep in mind is this is not your bolstering Byzantine player, right, where they've got level 4 system. Right now, this is level 2. And although level 2 is buffed compared to what it was at release, the reality is this is not the standard timing of the Byzantines around 20 minutes, where they're 2 TC, they're almost at Imperial Age, they're about 30 olive groves deep, it feels like in some cases, and they have 4 levels of system. This is very much a Byzantine player that's forced to keep investing in military. He wishes he could go for more eco, but Demu, especially with the play into mass lancers here, has completely denied the possibility. Spin those lancers. That's going to be a juicy raid. Anno runs straight into it. Even with textiles, these are the units that will get the kills. Limitane are there to defend, but there's just not enough of them here. Oh man, this is getting bad. You know, we say there's 2 kinds of games on Gorge, right? Those where you never need to wall and those where there's all the walls. And right now, although there are no walls, it feels like there needs to be here. Especially the way Anno's playing the flanks. Luckily, does it get away with the 18 villages there. But right now, idled out. And I don't expect Demu to back away too quickly here, right? He can still keep prowling. Also, if Anotand now sends more troops there, it means Demu gets control of the sacred sites. I think this is one of the annoying things about Delhi's opening into Lancers in Castle Age, is you choose to either address the Lancer raids or you have to address the sacred sites. But you rarely can address both. And that's why walling is so critical at this stage of the game on Gorge. Lancers in again. Good micro there. A few chop downs, and all of a sudden, 10 villages ahead for the Delhi. So there's going to be some counter raid attempts, but I mean, it's a camel, guys. It's not going to do enough here. Right now, the awkward thing for Anotand is the longer he waits, I think the worse this gets. He needs to find a direct engagement. Wallalow coming in. More idle time achieved, folks. And now run. Run really quickly. He's going to want that relic. Run! Don't you just love it when you forget about your unit and your enemy reminds you? That relic should be grabbed, though. Anotand should have a priest on the way. It was a crafty idea by Ben, but I think it might have been better just to get the relic out. It's kind of a big reason why we don't see many ambitious Wallalow attempts like that, right? It's like it can actually just give the game over. One relic is not going to be the entire difference, though. Reminder, it's still 2 sacred sites at any given time. You can actually see it in the gold. The raw numbers are bumping right now for Demu. Bumping up to the moon. Oh, man. And farm transitions now coming in. How did Demu afford this while pushing this army? That was impressive. That's kind of spooky, man. I'm a little bit worried here, actually, for Anotand, that he's getting outscaled in more than one way. Farms are at least being fleshed out by him. He has got the extra gathering and drop-off from olive oil with the Grand Winery. But something I want people to be conscious of with Grand Winery is it's decent, but it's to a certain degree baiting. And what I mean by that is this Grand Winery, remember, it gives you 60% more, right? But on a farm, on an olive grove, you're only getting 20%. So remember, it's 60% more on 20%. So that doesn't mean it's 80. That means it's 32%. Which means on average, considering these villages gather, like, what is it, I think 14, I want to say? Sorry, they got up to 15, right? 15. They're getting like 1 or 2 extra olive oil per farm. Now, it's nice. As you stretch the game out, it does actually add up, but it doesn't give you that immediate boom to afford infinite mercenaries. It's very much a gradual process. Oh, man. What is Anno's move here? Ah, there it is. He has gone for the second TC. I've been waiting for this for a while. Typically, when you're in this position, I've seen a lot of Byzantine players even go fast castle into second TC afterwards. This is the correct play. Anno's play right now is to delay the game. He wants to drag it out until it gets much later. He's much stronger for that. If this game ends in the next, say, 5 to 8 minutes, or rather reaches a stage where it looks better for Demu, shall we say, because obviously if the game ends, no duh, someone won. If this game continues to escalate in favor of Demu over the next 5 to 8 minutes, game's just going to be over. Anotand needs to try and take small raids without taking losses here. What scares me is the army value difference here, right? Like, the Javs aren't being equated, but I think the men-at-arms right now, although he's trying to counter it, if I'm not mistaken, marching drills should be on the way, right? Yeah, it's already in. This is a big deal. Infantry and marching drills... Sorry, Forced March, rather. I keep getting them mixed up. I don't know why I always say it like that. Forced March makes all the difference here, folks. Forced March will allow him to immediately use men-at-arms to get on the crossbows. And also allows him to just completely avoid the Limitane. And yeah, Gully's saying the House of Learning is interesting. I've seen Demu do this. He's convinced me. I like the build. I think Demu is very creative with this. So it's got things like the Tranquil Venue on the way, right? So if you... I would actually love to see him set up Moscow on the forward. I haven't seen anyone use this tech fully yet. But it is, in theory, very useful between fights. The biggest one for me is Home Blades with Forced March, though. Right now, these bad boys hit for 16 damage. Varangian can't compare to that. That's why Anotand stopped building them. Break from the wall, though. Demu's in. Anotand just now recovering the eco situation with the TC. Might be about to lose it. Demu has to turn around. Army's cut him off. This is a fight he cannot get away from cleanly. Men-at-arms going for the clash. Archers, crossbows stand their ground. Spears get baited away in mass here. Oh my god, Anotand, no. Is he going to lose the Jazz because of that? The men-at-arms look like they're going to get through here. Archers are targeting down the crossbows. Javelins trading out up against that range mass. Demu, he gets the better side of this. I cannot believe this right now. Anotand That bait by Demu dragged half of the forward army away. The melee was not strong enough, and now Anotand is struggling because of it. The home blades able to whittle him down. Jav count now shrinking. Archers are going to be traded out, yes, but the second wave coming behind this scares me, folks. Demu, 75 military. Anotand down to 38, and he does not have the type of economy you need to reboot. Dude, what a sick fight. You also have to remember that although they began this fight on military equal numbers, one, that melee drag ruined Anotand. Two, when it became ranged against ranged, even with javelins, remember those javelins are fighting up against high base damage crossbows and overall an infantry mass that has 20% more attack speed. That, by the way, is crazy when you combine it with the home blades. Home blades is a +3, but when you consider the 20% increase as well, it's more like you've got a 3.6 damage increase on the tech alone because of Tower of Victory. Then you consider the base damage, and now you make sense of why Demu, on a delay, plays hard into mass men-at-arms. And Anotand now on the edge of the abyss. So creative, man. Like, when I saw Demu do this on the ladder the other week, I wondered why more people haven't tried to go House of Learning. If you're not playing for a Sacred Site Wing Condition in the normal fashion where you drop keeps, you should be looking at House of Learning. It's an incredible tech option for home blades alone, but also has some variants that works out quite well, right? Like the extra, the Wheelbarrow Plus, I like to call it. The healing, not to mention the extra vision. There's plenty of interesting little techs in there. For me, Compound of the Defender puts you in a very slow, methodical approach where your opponent has to dent you. And I think what Demu ID'd perfectly here is if that happens in this matchup, if you sit back and say, come to me, Papa Anno, you're giving the Byzantines an opportunity to reach late game. And nobody wants to face Byzantine late game right now. Even with the nerfs, even with the tweaks, they are still a beast onto their own. Demu, it's going to lose the forward army here. But remember, the time is just ticking down, right? And at this stage, Anotand looking pretty weak. Down to under 1,000 food a minute at this stage, and more olive groves on the way, sure, but it shows you that he's quickly running out of these exhaustive food sources that have kept him alive up to this point. Oy, oy, oy. Demu, what do you do from here? Is it going to be keep drops? It looks like he's been avoiding stone this entire game, which surprises me a bit at this stage. But I think he realizes spending 900 stone on something that doesn't attack makes no sense from this position. Anotand is at death's door. And now Demu just wants to push him through it. More troops coming. Burn through on the wall. Demu's just going to keep piling, by the way. He understands how big the military lead is. The worst thing you could do is slow down. Anotand is struggling to recover. He has one hope, and it's this. The mangonel. I don't know if you can ever get a hit good enough to make you feel like you win this fight, but that's at least going to scare Demu away. So here's why I sound demoralized with the mango play. You guys know how like Byzantines kill all your siege with Varangian and Imp Age? I want you to realize that these dehli are like Castle Age Imp Varangians. With Forced March, they will move at 2 movement speed a second. On top of that, they hit for 17 damage each. Fair to say the Mango is not going to survive long enough to get a second shot out. And unfortunately, Anotand's army isn't really flexible enough to always block. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, no kite shield still for these Limitane. Wow, that's such a big mistake. I mean, I get why he doesn't feel like he can afford it, but it doesn't feel great, and I cannot believe what I'm seeing. The dehli willingly going Imperial Age. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how far ahead Demu feels right now, I don't know what will. Hisar Academy coming in now. Okay, and Wolves going up. Love this from Demu, just to try and slow things down, right? The timer is still ticking. Anotand, too weak to take a fight now, even with that tech up in consideration, but he needs to. Because now, if he waits any longer, the upgrades have been queued up, most of them only taking about a minute here, due to the fact that Demu has 23 scholars. Where's the uni? Can we, yeah, let's shift inside there, boys. We've got some tech to unlock. Incendiary Arrow is on the way, 3 minutes out. Dude, what a sick read by Demu in this game. Love the way that he scaled into these scholars to prep for this moment, and it's all because of how long he's maintained passive gold income via relics or sacred sites. Zeal as well. I can't see a way Anotand wins a fight if Zeal comes through. In 2 minutes, Zeal with Forced March, with Tower of Victory buff, and with Home Blades. Just think about the implications of that. It's going to be a phenomenal tool. And remember, because he's got 27 Scholars, he will reach a point where he can use them all in combat. First hand cannoneer queued up. I mean, at this point, Anotand, you've come this deep in the game, you might as well go for a punt. I mean, now he has to turn back due to the Elite Ghazi raids. Timer has been blocked out, but even with that removed, folks, remember, this is still Anotand easily 2.5 minutes away from teching up. He's close to pop. That's good. You want to know what's bad, though? Delhi is about to get all their elite techs. And with that, he will force a fight. And that's the goal here, to try and keep Anotand away or punish him when he makes that choice to tech. What are you seeing with the elite army already? Remember, this is 29 Scholar Delhi. That's why you're seeing these techs so quickly. Even the uni techs don't take that long. Elite army tactics is like 3 minutes that stage. He's zooming. He's even queued up more Scholars. Good lord. It's funny because usually when you see Delhi do this, you're like, oh, 10-minute research, cringe. Not in this game. They're so quick. Sacred Site being capped again. Looks like there has been a few Camel Riders just leaking through, but they're just not doing enough damage, guys. Like, the power of the Mosque, remember that unique tech from the the House of Learning, rather. He's healing for 4 health every second a unit's not in combat, as long as he's near these things. But we came for combat, folks, and the timing could not be more perfect by Demu. Anotand in the middle of a tech up. One, that if he loses the army, he will not be able to afford to bounce back and build another from. Dive in by Demu. He's got the Forced March. Look at the movement speed! 2.25. A tech that's too often forgotten, but not by Benny Boy. Dives in deep. He's looking for the eco. He's going to find a small pocket at the backside of this. Tech up is at least complete for Anotand, but this is where you need Dialecticus and go. You cannot wait 1 minute. He needs to toggle over right now. Village is going down. Army pulls him back to the corner, turns around for the engagement. Anotand, this is problematic. Incendiary Arrows is already in. The melee line is so strong at this stage. The Sultanate are at least absorbing a lot of the damage, a lot of the blows. But a lot of losses stockpiling up for Anotand. Now down to 165 population compared to the 200 consistent by Demu. And Anotand with just 1,200 food. I don't see a way back. Both sides lose their melee line. A decent number of range units are left here to contest what remains Anotand's army, and by the time he'd upgrade it, they're all dead. And I can't help but wonder, maybe it's nitpicky, maybe it wouldn't matter that much, but imagine if Dialecticus Limitane came in at the start of that fight. It would have allowed him to keep more troops alive, but right now I am seeing a 3-to-1 advantage for Demu. A bulk reserve of resources building up, and a never-ending line of purple into the Byzantine homelands. Now, they usually like their purple, but remember, in this game, that color belongs to Demu. Oi, oi, oi. I love the pullback as well. It was actually just a beautiful 1-2. What Demu done there is he intentionally pulled the entire army to the back corner so that this trickle of troops could stockpile against the wood and not get threatened, right? They were here burning this down one by one, and Anotand had nothing to react to. Sick move to end this game. I think we are definitely going to be going to a game number 2 with Demu 1 point on the board. There's just really no way back from this for Anotand. I'm going to hit the speed up because there's no way. Like, it's literally impossible right now. It's a 4-to-1 advantage, and the GG is going to come out. So game 1 does go to Demu. Don't worry, folks. We've got at least one more game between these two. Remember, it's a best of 3. I'm going to speed us up to get into that because I know the live games begin very shortly. I don't want you guys to miss that. So let me quickly open that up, and we'll have a look-see at game number 2. And then if there's a game 3 and it takes too long, we can just come back later because I know people won't catch live games. But I would be remiss if we didn't at least see the G2, which is going to be Gorge, English versus Delhi. Ooh. Wait, don't English just go pond here? I feel like English goes pond here, and Ottomans, sometimes they like to open either racks or military school on water maps, but you can't do that against English. This seems like a decent matchup. If Anotand gets baited into early feudal presence, I think he might be in trouble against the English here. But we'll see. Maybe instead, it could be possible that Demu doesn't want to give up the value of those first few longbows that can do a lot of damage, but let's find out. Let's get into it. It's time for game number 2 between Demu on the English and Anotand on the Ottomans. So, Himeyama opening, and straight away, Anotand tries for it. Yes! There we go. I say yes because I've watched way too many English players not do this on the opening. That was such a remarkable read. Remember, the Ottomans benefit from that early play because their docks cost less, 100 instead of 150. He was lucky to get away with the villager, but at the same time, what you need to consider here is Demu idled 3 villages. That's usually bad. But Anotand idled 1 in return. And on top of that, Demu can now make up for it by keeping these villages out here to gather the fish at a superior rate. So, we switch over this toggle. I'm expecting Demu to reach tech up a little bit quicker here, even with the investment because of what's happening here. This is a bit dicey from Anotand. The military school either has to be straight away or not at all. It's going to take you so long to passively produce a spearman that you're going to find an awkward, sticky situation where the English could already be on their way to feudal. And yes, just to recap for people, Demu plus Anotand played this game yesterday. We are catching up on it because it did not get cast by anyone, so we're going to watch the game now. And then, after this one, here on Saturday, we're going to be watching live games. So, drafts should be beginning in, I think, about 5 minutes for those players. So, we'll definitely watch this game. If there's a third between Anno and Demu, we'll come back to it later. But for now, let's focus on what's going to happen here. Anno doesn't like the buffs to the trade. I'm a little bit surprised more players aren't trying this, actually. We saw Corvinus, I think, is the only one I've seen so far, trying the trade network. It got heavily buffed, actually. You get a lot more gold. I think it used to be like 240. Now you can go up to like 338 with trade bags. But instead, Anotand realizes the game isn't going to go long enough for him to do that. Demu, other side, council on the way. I mean, timing isn't too bad for him, right? Considering he went for 4 fishing boats here, this is competitive. And also, there's only 1 spearman so far for Anno. Villagers will have to shift away, but 1 spear is not going to do anything against this dock. Okay, I know what someone's about to say. What about 2 spears, KP? 2 spears is not going to do anything against this dock. I just realized we didn't update the score. 1 second. Apologies. I'm trying to go a million miles an hour here. So there we go. So 1 game to Demu. Can he make it a quick 2-0? Remember, by the way, this is a group stage. So if Anno loses here, Anno fans, don't despair. He still has a shot here. The way it's split up, we've got 16 players split into 4 groups. 2 players from each group will proceed. So basically, if you lose 2, you're serious. You're screwed. Well, in most cases anyway. Anno, Sipahi follow-up. Active production does make a lot of sense here. Longbow spears are already in the way from Demu, right? And the blacksmith, this is a critical ingredient. If you can get the steeled arrow before there's any undermesh coming in, even the Sipahi struggle against longbows. So pretty cool read there by Demu. And Anno, one thing to keep in mind, why English are a very strong pick on this map, it's not just about the opening play onto the pond. The other detail that makes them pretty saucy here is how resourceful they are at punishing the limited woodlines. It's such a small thing to run around, and also it makes it very easy to scout in and snipe people chopping those lines. And no matter how you try to optimize your eco, you feel like there's always a point where your woodline is the most vulnerable thing when you play on Himeyama. Raids come in, Lombos, snipe down 1, looking for the second. We'll be able to find it. Beautifully done there by Demu before Steeled Arrow even comes through. Spearman will to protect this. Sipahi not doing well for it. I mean, the problem right now is the Scout is tanking a lot of the damage that is intended for these Spearmen. Lombo, Spearman trading out here. So it looks like a Sipahi, Spearman, and then maybe an extra Sipahi going down. Lombo's even trying to find another villager kill. So overall, Demu, he did lose more in this engagement, right? But at the same time, he's got a second wave coming. He's now 6 eco ahead. This is problematic. Anno, I think you need to just haul food into the fight. If anything, he might benefit from an extra stable to get the numbers right now. Or even, yeah, archery ranges. Because what I'm seeing is a lot of food being held on and not being spent. Demu, second wave now. It was a little bit overzealous. I think some people look at that and think Demu shouldn't have went so quickly, but what you need to realize is there's a window there. Your opponent has to build Sipahi because you're Lombo. And if you wait until Steel Arrow completes, which was going to take about another 45, 50 seconds, I think, at that stage, you wouldn't have got any villager kills, right? It would have been too many Sipahi. You already saw at that point it looked like too many Sipahi, but credit to Demu, man. I think that was actually quite an impressive fight, considering he only had 2 spearmen and a scout with him to protect against, I think it was 5 Sipahi towards the end of that. This second wave, a lot more spooky, though. No undermesh. So although you're seeing limited spears and a lot of lombos, the thing for Anotand right now is because he keeps forsaking undermesh, he leaves himself open to kills like this. And with no wheelbarrow, it just feels so free. Demu also now adding in the men-at-arms. Sipahi are roping around looking for the stragglers. Aren't going to find them easily, though. Not much fish left here, mind you. Demu, I think he's got about 500 left, and then his eco is going to slow down. So he does have to find more damage now before he's forced to delete the eco units and finds himself in a situation where he only has a 2-villager advantage. I know. Now go for undermesh. 40 seconds out, though. That's quite the lofty delay, right? Might be an opportunity. Layering the base is quite nice for Anotand, actually. He's kept his wood and his gold as far away as possible, right? Like, he didn't go for a wood line next to the gold because he knew Lombos, if they park, they shut you down. So great read there by Anno. Demu now starts stepping back. Trying to snipe out that meta before the undermesh comes through. He just doesn't have enough damage, though. And Sipahi are going to swarm on top of this. Nicely played. Demu out of position. Gets caught by the Sipahi mass. Meta is going to go down. But a fantastic trade here now for Anotand. The question is, what's the second wave, or sorry, third wave going to be like here? Men-at-arms are being scaled into. This is ambitious by Demu, considering he only has 1 farm cluster. This feels a little bit over the top. He's about to run out of fishing food. And so far, although it looks like he's been trading fairly evenly, I'd argue that he's been taking quite heavy blows here. The Sipahi mass is proving quite effective. And now, with the undermesh in, Anotand has a remarkable ability to take fights directly. What worries me right now is he's not looking for a direct fight. Okay, so this is kind of creative by Demu. In most situations, when you're up against this type of opponent and you take them down twice, usually the English tull, right? They just go, okay, it's a macro game now. I can't do anything. This play by Demu to go for a third strike is unexpected. And right now, Anotand, over half of his army is away. At least in terms of raw value here, right? The Sipahi are the only thing Demu has to fear. Right now, the Sipahi are looking for raids. Movement in here. Demu has to pull back, has got the wheelbarrow, so he should be able to save most of the villages. That TC5 is going to keep Anotand at bay. Meanwhile, Demu can now look to reach in himself with his lombos. Just a reminder, folks, after this series, we are going to be checking in on Marine Lord versus Nuggify. So if you want to see the absolute mad chad from NA on the rise, Nuggify himself up against M-Lord, this is the place to be. Oh, man, dude, I don't like that. I know. Yeah, this is better. I was about to say, I don't like that he's left all this Sipahi here. Leave a few to raid, send the rest home. Right now, I feel like you're at a kind of turning point where Demu, the wood lines are getting awkward, right? Gold is being blocked, and Anno, I believe, he must be exhausting food quickly here. How many sheep has he got left? 8. 8 with the amount of Sipahi he's building is not a lot. Like, actually, if you think about his raw food numbers, a cool way to think about this is that in 2.5 minutes, he will be out of food. Because he's exhausting 850, and a sheep is worth 250 each. And arms are getting whittled down one by one, though. Demu's circling like a shark. Anno, does he have enough Sipahi? I don't think so. 9 feels a little bit weird against 7 men-at-arms. You can dive past them, but the men-at-arms have good damage versus you, right? Like, you have no melee armor. It's kind of problematic here. Interesting that Anotand prioritizes the ranged armor here. Burn down on the military schools, though. Anno is going to lose some villages. Lombo's moving past this. That's going to idle out the wood line further. Needs to be careful, though. This choke point is very holdable by men-at-arms. Demu starts stepping back. Lombos Trying to snipe down. It's so difficult against the 4 ranged armor, though. It's going to peel off. Dude, this is great micro so far by Demu. Now Sipahi have to clash. Men-at-Arms dragged to the side. Right now, the archers are attacking the wrong target here. Lombo's just staying out of range. Meta now being prioritized down. Great micro there by Demu to get rid of that aura. But the second wave of Sipahi is in. Lombo's and MAA have to stand their ground, and it looks like it's going to be a wipe again. But the remarkable part behind this is that despite the losses, look at Demu's numbers. This is deceptive, right? The Men-at-Arms count is actually elsewhere. The second wave. Third wave, now the fourth. Demu, I love the fact that he doesn't stop swinging. It kind of feels like Anotand is building a lead, but one thing that worries me here is, once again, if your opponent goes once, twice, 3 times, right? You're like, okay, now they stop. Now they go play a macro game. One thing that spooks me a bit is if Anotand now tries to tech up and Demu now commits with his army, I think this is enough Men-at-Arms to break it. Right? Like, this is a very dangerous game. Like, it's a bit of a gambit from Demu, but what I love about it is you have to remember he's 1 game up in this series already. He can take this gamble. Anotand, if Demu times this perfectly, Anotand will already start the tech up. Right now, think about this, folks. Anotand could have 1,800 resources worth of units more. Right now, this is all deadweight eco. He hasn't started the tech up. He hasn't built the troops, and now he doesn't have the infrastructure to do so. Villagers getting killed again. Demu now 7 ahead. Raid coming in big, though. This is the moment to shine. He needs this one. Men-at-Arms are there to guard against this, though. Matt Sipahi, but look at the health bars on them. Demu has the textiles. He's going to kite him out. Meanwhile, diving towards the gold. Oh, my God. And Anotand doesn't realize that Lombos make it look so simple. Sipahi raid, in the end, doesn't find enough here. I mean, even with the stragglers afterwards, right? I'm worried he's not going to get enough kills here. Other side of this, tech up on the way. But Anotand doesn't have an army! Oh, no! Demu instantly forces the GG! Anotand, he played this so logically. Once, twice, 3 times England came, and every time he knocked them back. But Demu, the relentless pressure, wave after wave, gets him a swift but powerful 2-0. None of us saw that one coming.